Hello Fantasy Faithfuls and welcome to Season 3, Episode 1 of CSD Head-2-Head. Today I have two running backs for you in Marlon Mack and Derrick Henry, who both go in the 4th round right now, so let's dig in.
They're going to hand it off again to Mack. And he's inside the 10 and will find the end zone.
Starting off, we're looking at Mack's rushing and receiving. The two lanes that correlates most with fantasy scoring are the left and right ends, lanes where Mack have above average runs to. His rushing trends remind me of Philip Lindsay. They run a ton up the middle to set up carries to the outsides, which is perfect for fantasy scoring. And Mack does this very well. He has very good yards per carry to the outside left, while being 0.4 yards below the league average to the right. Not ideal, but still good. 4.2 up the middle has to increase somewhat for him to be a stud back, but overall, running back 2 numbers. In the receiving aspect of his game, he has very classical running back distribution with more throws to the outside than over the middle. However, the amount of targets over the middle is crazy low at only 8%. This is not a problem if we look at the catch rate, as he is much better at catching the ball to the left than to the other two zones, but there might be another issue here instead if we look a little deeper. His touchdown rate last year was 4.6%, the 10th highest in the league. This most likely will go down a bit, but with more touches, he can have the same total amount of touchdowns, so I'm not too worried. Back to his receiving and the issue I just mentioned, the yards per catch to the left is so bad that all those targets and catches leads to nothing. This is an area of his game he has to improve to take the next step.
Drive starts at the 1 and looking for a little breathing room. They got in plenty more. Derrick Henry still going. Stays in bounds. He might go 99 yards.
Now let's look at Derrick Henry's rushing and receiving. I am not a big Derrick Henry fan, but this is something I can get behind. He is very versatile when it comes to where he runs the football. There is a slight advantage to the left side of the field, of course the worst side to have an advantage to, but 33% up the middle is all good, and 13% outside the right tackle is very nice to see. But the two lanes for him is the middle and the left end one. Those are the two lanes he runs to the most, and he has some really impressive yards per carry in them. 4.9 is 0.9 above league average, and 7.1 is 2.3 yards above the league average. He's just not good enough when he runs outside the left tackle and right guard lanes. Other than that, he could have been amazing. Henry, just as Mack, sees most of his targets to the left side of the field, but has plenty more over the middle compared to Mack, with 33% of all his targets going over the middle. With his catch rates, we see that this is a perfect combination. He catches more of the targets to the left, followed by the middle, and lastly to the right, so perfect synergy with his targeting patterns. His touchdown rate last year was 5.5%, that's the 7th highest in the league, way too reliant on touchdowns for his fantasy points, and not enough yards. His yards per catch is perfectly in line with targeting and catch rates. I'm so impressed by this, especially since he's only half a yard below league average to the left and middle. He's just not targeted enough for this to matter in the long run, which is a shame. I would like to take a second to remind you to hit that like button, leave a comment what you think about this video, and subscribe to the channel. I love every interaction I have with y'all, and every little bit helps me put out even more content. Now let's look at how they perform in some different situations. Both these running backs prefer to play on home turf. Also, just wanted to add a footnote here, this is not a given, as there's only a 4% difference across the entire NFL. Mack has crazy high point differences in his scoring when playing a bad run defense, while Henry almost makes no difference if the team he's playing usually give up a ton of points to running backs. This is huge plus for Mack, as you will find out later on when we look at his schedule. In the final category, it switches to Mack not caring if the team he plays has a winning or losing record, while Henry plays much better against teams below 500, a slight problem if you look at his schedule. So Mack's best situation is playing at home versus a below 500 record team with a bad run defense, and Henry's situation is playing at home versus a below 500 record team with a bad run defense. All the same, but with minor differences.
Losing yardage on the Cowboys. Colts looking to add on Mack again. Touchdown!
For the red zone analysis, we have Mack, who saw 37 red zone carries in 2018, while Henry saw 42. With those carries, Mack scored 10 touchdowns, and so did Henry, giving them equal touchdowns, but a high success rate for Mack as he had fewer opportunities. Henry saw more than 50% of the tight end's red zone carries, and 23% success rate isn't totally out there, so I think he'll get 10 again. While Mack has to get some more touches to reach 10, which I also think he will. All in all, pretty even numbers in the red zone. Looking at their opponents in the first 4 weeks for the schedule analysis, Mack has a fantastic couple of games in front of him with some terrible run defenses across the board, with the Falcons being the most difficult one of the 4. Compare that to Henry, who faces some of the toughest ones early on, with the Falcons in the mix for him as well. The worst run defense for him is the Colts, that still gave up the 6th least amount of points to running backs last year. And this shows in the average points to running backs with 18.7 for Mack and only 17.9 to Henry.
Henry, he got it. Touchdown Titans.
Comparing their numbers, we have a ceiling win for Henry by about a point, not the highest of ceilings for either one, but top 20 numbers. Mack takes home the 1-game floor. He has been much better in his bad games than Henry has in his bad games. It's not even an even competition. The risk of them not reaching double-digit fantasy points on any given week is also in favor of Mack, 20.7% compared to Henry's 38.2%. So to summarize, let's look at their pros and cons. For Mack, we have good rushing patterns, red zone numbers, an easier schedule. He has a higher floor, but he has a lower ceiling week to week. For Henry, we have good rushing patterns and low-key receiving as well. He has a high ceiling, but he has a tough schedule, a crazy low floor, and is very touchdown reliant. After comparing all these factors, Mack ends up with a draft grade of C, while Derrick Henry gets a D, making my choice very easy. If I get the option to pick either one of them in the 4th round, it is going to be Marlon Mack, no question about it. He has the higher draft grade, and I feel much more comfortable week in and week out in my seasonal fantasy leagues with Mack. Hello Fantasy Faithful, I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to check out more of them right here and here. In case you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat.